KTN News. Get the whole story.
A very good morning to you and welcome to Morning Express. My name is Trix Ingado. Today on the show we take a look at the very latest happenings in the country. That includes, of course, the latest in politics. We shall take a look at as well inside the industry, the media industry that is, and find out what can be done to secure the mental health of journalists. But of course, current affairs do take center stage. We have a lot packed for you. We shall be also analyzing some of the news that have been happening over the weekend and helping you make heads and tails of it. Do stay tuned for that. Before we get into the local stuff, let's take a look at what's making headlines internationally. And we're starting off with the Daily Monitor this morning. We're told inside fallout at Supreme Court. Now, tensions have been smoldering for some time at Uganda's highest court, where this week, and they were laid bare this week, when Justice Esther Kisake squared off with Chief Justice Alphonse Owinyi Dolo. Take a look at that and figure out what's happening as far as the local judiciary matters are concerned. And authorities are bitter, apparently, as contractors delay to complete Masaka Market, and veteran leader Sassou Nguesso and the favorite as Congo heads towards the poll. Let's see his odds. Take a look at that and see whether he will make it, or what the predictions are according to this article. And Museveni declares 14 days to mourn true friend, and that is the former president of Tanzania, John Pombe Magufuli. Far from that, let's take a look at the Citizen and see what is making headlines this morning. Magufuli led prayers at hospital before taking his last breath. That actually points to his Catholicism. The former president, Tanzania, John Pombe Magufuli, led prayers with doctors and his caregivers at the hospital before taking his last breath. Family spokesman Ngusa Samike has revealed. Of course, everyone is curious about the last moments of this leader, who had a very peculiar approach towards leadership. And then we have Ruwaichi, Tanzanians to pray for Mama Samia. Of course, she has her job cut out for her. We're smack in the middle of a pandemic. We have also economic issues that need to be handled in that country. So the Archbishop of Dar es Salaam, Jude Thaddeus Ruwaichi, has urged Tanzanians to pray, and a running theme we are seeing there. And then they leap all the way to the United States, where they tell us U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has congratulated Samia Suluhu. So it's not so far off from local news here on the Citizen. Take a look at that to learn more. And on the Rwanda Today website, RSC banks on advisor to boost services and grow business. The move is expected to help to attract more regional and international investors. They're also giving us a tally of the coronavirus cases. Tanzania, of course, we do know they do not give out statistics on their numbers, so they're still at 509 since last year, April. Kenya is at 120,910. Uganda is at 40,651, while Rwanda is at 20,761. Then 30 people have died in the DRC Congo when clashes happened. Let's move on to the East African, and we're told leaders to mourn Tanzania's Magufuli. Countries declared national days of mourning. That includes Kenya, of course, and ordered their flags flown at half-mast, paying their last respects to that very, very well-loved, beloved leader in Tanzania. And we're told also Kenya pulls out of the oral hearings in maritime case. That's the ongoing back and forth between Somalia and Kenya, as we feel that there's no fairness as far as the procedures are concerned. And in the rest of Africa, Botswana has repatriated Mugabe-era refugees. Then let's see what's making headlines on the CNN this morning. On their world issue, we're told parts of Australia declare natural disaster during once-in-100-year floods. And clearly, it's quite the situation there. We can see there ambulances with lifeboats on top of them. And then Nawal El-Saadawi, famous Egyptian feminist author, has died at the age 89. Hundreds of protesting in Turkey and withdrawing from international treaty to protect women. So they are not happy with that withdrawal. And Iceland volcano remains hazardous as eruption near Reykjavik. Take a look at that and see what that's all about. A lot of feminism is being reported, and of course issues surrounding that. Let's take a look at what's happening on the Washington Post this morning. AstraZeneca, once touted as pandemic slayer, faces challenges. And remember, this is the vaccine that we are using here in country. The collaboration between the University of Oxford researchers and one of the world's biggest drug companies came with sky-high expectations, but it has been plagued with the missteps as other vaccines gain speed. Take a look at that and find out why it lagged behind. And state of emergency declared in Miami Beach as spring breakers overwhelm, of course, authorities, because they're not actually taking a look at or heeding to those. They're not heeding to those, instructions that they have been given. But far from that, let's take a look at what's making headlines locally. And joining me is former legislator Arthur Adera, and he is going to help me look at what's making headlines locally. Now, welcome to the show, Honorable Adera.
Thank you, Trix.
Now, the Standard is telling us this morning, Jubilee split on Ruto's removal. That's the main story this morning. Strategy and timing is what they say. All eyes will be on Jubilee's powerful National Management Committee, whose decision to remove the deputy president from party leadership rattled the political establishment. Today, the top organ will be reviewing its decision. Will it uphold or vary its plan? What do you make of this one?
I think the split opinion really is a reflection of what happens elsewhere in the Kenyan political arena. Yeah. People have wondered about that and what the intention is in terms of, a party that makes a decision at that level must be aiming at a certain output. And people are wondering, because there's been an argument that has been put forth that, if you deal with the deputy president in that way, it doesn't help your cause, because you're going to cause him to have a lot of sympathy from the non-aligned people. Because everybody knows that the creation of Jubilee was largely thanks to the efforts of William Ruto. His mobilization efforts, his efforts to charm the people into seeing his viewpoint, his efforts to work with the parties that ultimately merged to form Jubilee and to let go their own little enclaves. And therefore, to jettison him from the party would be an exercise that could result in the opposite effect of what those who are responsible for the action might intend. And I can understand that there's split opinion, because it might be, an exercise in futility. Jettison him from the party, and then what? Because he remains deputy president. He will be a member of the party, legally so, even if you removed him from being deputy party leader, unless and until he chooses to leave the party. That's the only time when he can be impeached on the basis of party affiliation. Short of that, you can jettison him from the party and have no effect at all in terms of, in fact, it frees him up to then go headlong into his own campaigns and claim sympathy and claim foul play and claim that he has been unfairly treated by Jubilee.
Okay, now as we shall get deeper into that, but as we keep our finger on the pulse of the nation, we shall be telling you more about what's happening politically. But one of the biggest stories that are unfolding this morning has to do with the KCPE examinations, and we have the Education CS live in Thika West, where he has actually now just opened a container, or rather is overseeing the opening of a container that contains examination material that shall be used by students. Now, what you're seeing right there is something that is ongoing, and it is being duplicated across the nation. This is standard practice, but of course the CS is in typical form hands-on when it comes to these matters. So what you're seeing right there, examination materials that have arrived, the head teachers shall be taking them to the respective schools and then shall commence the actual exams.
Dika Primary. Dika Primary. Officer Dika Primary.
Right, and we shall keep an eye on that, and we have our reporters all over the nation who are going to give us that as it rolls out. And of course, you can expect to get the very latest with regards to the examinations. Now, in line with that, let's take a look at the back page of the Daily Nation this morning. D-Day for candidates as exams take off. And the number of registered students, or rather candidates, is 1,191,725. Those are those who are registered. 28,467 are the examination centers. We have 227,679 teachers to work at as center managers, supervisors and invigilators and examiners. 5 number of subjects that shall be examined, and 479 distribution centers, rather containers, what you've just seen right now being opened up, where the examination materials are being stored. So when they're opened up, that's when the head teachers take them, and this, of course, that's the distribution link to all the schools, and then the practice of the exam shall commence. Honorable Dera, what stands out to you when it comes to this year's exam?
Obviously, the 9 months layoff for students, I sympathize with them and I pray for them. That layoff can have a massive effect, and I hope that the examiners, the setters and markers of the exams, will take that into account in examining this year's crop of examinees. The other thing that strikes me about what we have been doing over the last several years is that the minister, the PS, the high-ranking education officials have to go around the country essentially supervising the exams. Haven't we established a system now, coming from a history of exam cheating in the past and a lot of irregularities in exam? Haven't we reviewed, strengthened and perfected that system to a level now where we don't need the minister supervising it? It's not the minister's job. It is not the high-ranking education officials' job to supervise exams. That is the job of the officials at the county and the district level, and of course with the head teachers of those schools working together to make sure that exams are done with a level of integrity that befits national exams. The minister should establish a system that does not need him to be physically present to supervise exams. It is not his job. It is not the job of high-ranking education officials to do that. And because, you see, the minister may visit a school or 2 or 3 or 10. Yes. He cannot be everywhere. The high-ranking education officials from Jogo House cannot be everywhere. So if they are going to supervise exams in those few schools that they are able to physically do that, what happens to the other schools? Yeah. Well, we must have a system, and the system must work.
Maybe to play devil's advocate, perhaps they are hoping that the sting operation nature of those visits might aid in them, you know, behaving or doing what is right.
I suppose, you know, over time, the element, the deterrent effect caused by, you know, that you believe that it's possible for a high-ranking official to visit any time, or for the minister to visit any time. That possibility alone should exist in the minds of all those officials. But more importantly, there must be a system embedded in the education sector that enables exams to be conducted with integrity, marked with integrity, and the results delivered that can be trusted by the examinees and their parents.
Absolutely. And there was also, to speak to your concern of that that period where the children are staying at home. The minister has said that they shall be marking the exams with a human face. Do you think this is the right approach?
A human face has no standard.
Exactly.
How many human faces will be marking the exams? Yes. There will be thousands of human faces. So I don't know what he means by that. I hope he means that
one would hope that he would say the exams will be set with a human face.
That consideration will be embedded into the process of, has been embedded in setting, and will be embedded into the marking of the exams, because at some point you have to be sure that there is a standard that is applied across all the candidates.
Absolutely. And far from that, let's jet back to the Standard, and the front page has this story, and they're telling us about testing times. Very apt subhead there. The first under the cloud of COVID-19 pandemic, these exams go down in the history as unique, given the considerations to assure on safety and moderation of tests after 2020 learning losses. Now, student safety, that is number one, that's being looked at. Wearing the face masks at all times, enhancing spacing among candidates and heightening surveillance to keep out impersonators, because we do know that persistent problem whereby we have strangers coming to sit in and cramming the PIN number or whatever it used to be called, and actually using it to sit for someone else because they've been paid. Given the masks, that is quite a huge concern. What do you make of that one?
I suppose there has to be a system where students are identified with social distancing. You could identify a student standing 3 meters away from you, say, remove your mask. Oh, it is you, now we're sure about you. Look at there has to be a way, a simple enough way that you can use to identify students before they. But let me tell you, I mean, it's this massive cheating. If you have to have cheating on a massive scale, it has to take the connivance of the officials. The officials will be involved, maybe at the district level, but certainly at the school level, who then facilitate that process of somebody else using the index number of a certain student, a certain candidate to sit exams for him or her. Without that, it cannot happen, because there are simple ways of dealing with this. In fact, teachers who are experienced and have been trained as invigilators have a way of, through body language of the student, the way the candidate carries themselves around, their knowledge of the environment and so on, can identify an imposter pretty easily. Yeah. So unless we are saying that those officials are compromised and in connivance with whoever it is that intends to steal exams, it is going to be very difficult to do that at the local level.
Yes, that's one peculiar concern given the mass. And another one is the high number of pregnant women, or rather girls. These are still girls. Now, managing the higher number of pregnant girls after learners were exposed to sexual activity during the long break, that's another task that teachers and invigilators will have to, contend with.
Before this year, we've had reports of, a few though, few and far apart, reports of girls going into labor in the exam room. And I suppose, given purely on a statistical level, we're going to have more of that this year. And, given the 9 months layoff of candidates staying at home and getting involved socially and sexually, you would expect a larger number of that. But I have to say that I am glad that in our country we can allow those girls to actually come back to school and do exams. They're being given a second chance. It is a great thing that these young girls, their future is not put paid to just because they've gotten pregnant.
And you can get more information on this as it all goes on page 2, safety of learners top priority as exams start. You can see there pictured some of the very social distance students being prepared as they plan, as the schools plan ahead of today. And then universities are prepared to kick out 32,000 students who have overstayed. What do you make of this one? This is another peculiar problem. I mean, 32,000, that's a lot.
I don't know what overstaying means. It needs to be defined clearly, because does it mean people who have deferred too many times? Some of them defer for reasons beyond their control. For example, problems with fees, problems with pregnancies or family. You have a lot of married women being students in the university, and some they get in the family way, and maybe transfer of the spouse. There's so many different reasons. And I think that the ministry needs to categorize reasons, again, the human face, to categorize the different reasons for which these students have overstayed. And I don't know what overstaying means. Does it mean taking 2 more years or 4 more years or 5 years? It needs to be defined clearly, because again, transparency is important on a matter like this, so that you don't have students that being used as a gateway to jettison students who the university does not like for one reason or another.
That's actually, well, some of these quote-unquote career students are there even for reasons such as politics. You know, they have a lot to gain by still being in those schools, but then there are those genuine ones that you're pointing out who are there because they cannot afford it, so they need at least some more time to find the school fees or whatever is needed for them to survive and actually make it through the education system. There's a curious story here on page 3, and I think it's something that has been a personality that has been out of the minds of many. That is Norman Magaya. He has kept away from the limelight, but his occasional posts on social media tell of his struggles with, of course, ill health, and that's what we're being told in this one. The issues that he has faced, he believed he was poisoned and says a toxicology test done confirmed it. And then lawyers say he has no idea who or why he was poisoned, but suspects a random tea he took. It also says he believes the truth about his troubles will show itself out in the fullness of time. What do you make of this one?
That's very philosophical. That's a guy who has taken his pain in his stride. I wish him well. I wish him quick and complete recovery. Norman Magaya was one of those guys that ODM knew they could count on every moment.
Fearless and vocal is what
Fearless,
the article,
vocal, articulate, and at the same time very measured in his utterances. He was not the kind to make utterances that inflame or utterances that would generally be deemed as reckless. He was not that kind of guy.
Yes.
And whether you disagreed or agreed with him, you would respect him because he's a guy who had an argument and made it clearly. Now, to think that he might have been poisoned might generate a lot of fear.
Yeah, and I'll just hold that thought. And the pictures you're seeing right now to our viewers are from Mombasa, and that is the same exercise. D-Day for candidates. So we are having, of course, this being rolled out across the nation. But these are, security officers that are overseeing the exercise. As the containers are opened, as officials go there and collect the examination papers, and then and later on, rather, distribute them to the various schools so that the exercise can start. The security officials, or rather officers, as you can see right there, are very instrumental in maintaining law and order. So what you're seeing right there is something that is, like I said earlier on, duplicated or across the nation, and therefore it is something we shall continue to give you pictures of and tell you details in the event that things that are out of order, unique or peculiar to the normal expectations of the exercise happened. We shall have our reporters giving us updates periodically on what is happening across the nation. But clearly, as you can see, in Mombasa, all is well. Okay, now let's go on with Norman Magaya, the fearless and vocal man that was behind the National Super Alliance Brigade in 2017's general election, and his role in Kenyan politics cannot be underscored. You were talking about that element where he said that he suspects he was poisoned after taking a random cup of tea and does not know why, and you said this would evoke a lot of fear to, anyone who would hear such a story. What do you make? Continue with your thought, actually.
I don't know whether he's telling us everything. Sometimes there is... I remember the late George Saitoti. It took years. The vice president then disappeared from the public eye and initially denied that there was anything wrong, anything like what it turned out to be in the end. I think for fear that if he were to admit at that time that he was poisoned, more consequences might follow. From either the same people who wanted to poison him or a related group of people. So I don't know whether Norman Magaya is telling us everything that
of course not.
He would want to tell us. Depends on the situation, I suppose.
Yeah.
If he still feels there is a risk to his life at this point in time, he might not. He might want it swept under the carpet, because you see, saying he was poisoned by certain people in a certain place would demand, therefore, that he goes and reports to the police, records a statement, and then he will be held responsible for whatever it is he has presented in his statement. So I don't know whether he, being the lawyer that he is being careful to avoid trouble, or that he fears that those people who wanted him dead or wanted him harmed might still be powerful enough to do more, so he'd rather leave them alone and seek peace so that they leave him to live his life. But I wish him well. He is a guy who in Kenyan politics, you know, the unsung heroes in Kenyan politics, he would be one of them, and I'm sure that the NASA brigade, ODM, on the other hand, would look back and say maybe they did not do enough to protect that guy and help him to get all the care he needed when he needed it.
Yeah, and just to read an excerpt as we conclude this talk on this story, he is frail from the look, the fierce and animated Magaya, synonymous to the NASA and Coalition for Reforms and Democracy faction that drove the country's opposition, is no longer there in the flesh, but in spirit. Now, we are having a close look at what's happening as far as the KCPE examinations are concerned. The materials are being delivered to the various centers, and now we have Ibrahim Karanja coming to us live from Nakuru. Ibrahim, what do you have for us?
Good morning, Trix. We are coming live to you from Kapkures in Nakuru West. We are at the examination distribution center. Behind me, of course, you can see the different examination managers getting their exams here. Of course, this is an exercise that was overseen by Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembea, who says that at least 330,000 students will be sitting KCPE across the Rift Valley, that is across the 14 counties in Rift Valley. And just to jump into it, perhaps to get into details of security situation across the Rift Valley, I'll engage him. RC, thank you so much for speaking to us. 330,000, 51% boys, 49% girls. Let's start with the thorny issue. Many people would wonder about the security situation, especially in Baringo and the other counties that are affected. Are the candidates there? Are they there?
Stories of insecurity in the Rift Valley is actually overrated. We've done adequately to ensure that the Rift Valley is a very secure region. And I want to confirm that all our 330 candidates in the region are going to sit the exams in a very secure and peaceful environment, just like any other place in this republic. Those areas that have security challenges, especially in Baringo, are adequately covered. Of course, we secured those areas, and our children have been learning like anywhere else. And these 3 days are just like any other place. They're going to do the exams well.
And also among the things that we must talk about is the rate of pregnancy that we saw when schools closed due to COVID. And a number of our girls were reported to be pregnant. Perhaps the situation now, how many girls do we have who are sitting exams perhaps while pregnant, and how many delivered and have actually been followed up to come back and sit for the exams?
I cannot give you a specific number of the girls who got pregnant and are sitting the exams. What I can confirm to you is that adequate measures have been put in place to ensure that these children sit the exams in a very comfortable environment. Those who are expectant now are going to be provided with special desks. They're going to be very comfortable. Those who are almost due again, we've identified them, and we've also put adequate measures in place to ensure that in the event that maybe have exam-induced labor, because it has always happened, you see all this drama on the media all the time, they'll be rushed to hospital where they'll be taken care of by professionals, and we'll still ensure that they sit the exams. And lastly, we have got those maybe who delivered last week or the previous, or even yesterday. They are not going to miss the exams because they delivered. We're going to ensure that we provide them with the basic necessities to ensure that they sit the exams. Even if it means that they breastfeed in school, we're going to do that so that they also sit the exams. But we know that those are very difficult circumstances. Ordinarily, young girls are supposed to sit exams without having to go through all those shenanigans. And I think going forward, we're going to ensure that some of these things do not happen. Just need to be disciplined people, and we avoid all these primitive behaviors of putting our young girls in the family way, so that we have all these special arrangements for them to sit exams. Very difficult circumstances. Don't expect them to do very well actually because of these challenges.
And I'll see perhaps very briefly, 30 seconds. What sort of engagement do you expect from the security agencies, the intelligence agencies, and the education officers across the Rift Valley?
All those are stakeholders in the examination process, and we said those are the only people who are going to be allowed in our schools. Of course, the media will go to those schools with special clearance, as already advised. But the center managers, our head teachers, security agencies, and education officials are all going to be fully engaged in the next 3 days for the KCPE, and then subsequently, of course, the KCSE.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, that is Rift Valley Regional Commissioner
Unfortunately, we are having a bit of problem with that network, but we shall be getting back to him, Ibrahim Karanja, in a few to get more on what's happening in Nakuru. But we have heard those security officials saying they are all prepared. And let's now cross over to Mombasa, where we have Tobias Chanji bringing us the very latest as far as the preparation for the exams that shall be happening not too long from now. Tobias, over to you. What's happening on the ground?
Well, a very good morning, Trix. We are at the regional office of the Director of Education, Mombasa, where we've just witnessed the opening of a container by the Kenya National Examination Council chairperson, that is John Onsoti. And what is happening now is that various teachers from various schools and also security personnel are just picking the exams to the various schools. Remember that Coast Region has a total number of 100,712 candidates who will be sitting for this year's exams, and we've seen an increase of 12%. 2019, we saw 88,102 candidates who sat for that exam. And Kilifi leads with more candidates, who are about 39,386, followed by Kwale that has 22,465 candidates, while Mombasa County has 21,129 candidates. Taita Taveta has 8,771. Tana River has 5,613 candidates, while Lamu has 3,348 candidates, making it the least county. Remember that in this year's exam also we've seen more girls than boys. We have about 51,206 girls who are candidates for this year's exam in Coast Region, while we have around 49,995 boys. So what you're seeing on the screen now, that is the chairperson, Kenya National Examination Council, that is John Onsoti, who is just about to give his remarks concerning the exam. Maybe you can just allow him to just make his remarks as we listen in.
Good morning, members. Or do we wait for the bus to move?
We are live. We are live.
Yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here just to inform you that we are here to witness the start of these national examinations, and also to reassure everybody that the examinations is intact. The examinations has been securely prepared, securely transported to the containers, and we are here to advise our colleagues, the center managers, to continue the process of securing the examinations. And in the same, I want to appreciate all the stakeholders, all the multi-agency members who have participated in the organization of this process of examinations to ensure that we have integrity in our examinations. More so, we are also trying to remind ourselves of this COVID-19, which is causing ravage all over, but we thank God we have been spared, especially to run our schools to this point. Finally, it is also to wish our candidates success in this year's examination, and we are looking forward to the same or similar success as we have had in the last 4 series. Otherwise, I also want to thank the press for the support you have given us in the process of preparing these examinations. But more so, we are saying, let us leave this at what we can call moderate level to avoid creating anxiety in our children. We are conscious about the environment our children have learned, so we are going to take care of every situation, and the children will be able to produce their best. Thank you very much. Thank you, and be blessed.
Well, that has been John Onsoti, who's the chairperson, Kenya National Examination Council, just giving a brief concerning the exams in Coast Region, and just witnessed the opening of the container of the exams to over 100,000 candidates will be sitting for these exams. Now I hand you over to Shadrach Miti, who is in Thika. Shadrach, over to you.
further.
Right, and that is Tobias Chanji. We shall be getting news from Shadrach Miti, who is in Thika. Earlier on, we were told that the CS, George Magoha, was on the ground opening up the container, or rather overseeing the opening up of a container containing exam material, and that those, of course, shall be distributed to the schools. We have heard from Tobias telling us also that, or rather interrogating John Onzoti, the chair of the NEC chair that was on the ground, telling us about the examination materials being intact, advising those who are in charge to take care and ensure that that remains the same, and that the coronavirus, of course, has posed some challenges that they are facing up. Now, of course, we have now connected with Shadrach Miti, who is in Thika. Shadrach, if you can hear me, what's happening where you are?
Well, we are here with the CS for Education, Professor George Magoha, and he has just witnessed the opening of the container. And so we are joined with let's listen to what he said, and then we'll come back to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As you are aware, today is the first day for the KCPE examination for our children. As we said in the past, the children are very well prepared. The examination was also prepared, taking that into consideration. You have seen this morning that it is all systems go. All agencies of government are here. We opened the container at 6 o'clock across the nation. We have senior officers of government from the Ministry of Education, Interior, and other agencies and Teacher Service Commission in all the 479 containers countrywide. I chose to start here in Thika, and you have seen for yourselves we have a little hiccup, but it doesn't involve the integrity of examinations. The hiccup we have this morning is that some teachers perhaps did not arrive on time, but I think we are going to reorganize ourselves to be sure that, to ensure that going forward, everybody must be here before 6 o'clock. From the point of view of the children who are taking the exams, they are all prepared. In this area, there are 2 children who are going to take examinations from the hospital. I've been assured that the one that was that had a road traffic accident is quite stable and able to take the exam. The exam will be taken to the child there. Otherwise, mine is to ask everybody in this republic to pray for our children, because this is the very first time in the history of this country that our children are going to face an examination after having been away from class for 7 months. Luckily, speaking as a physician, I think they have recovered very, very swiftly, and that this will not have a very permanent scar or impact in the way they are going to perform the exams. Finally, I want to reiterate once again that the examination is being secured. The integrity of the examination process shall remain unquestionable. Each center manager has 2 policemen whose job is to ensure that that examination is kept with the utmost integrity. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. From here, I want to go to a primary school in the slums, or in Kendutu. Perhaps I will decide which one to go to, and then go to the school for the blind, and then I'll go to another area.
Prof, just one question. Last week, while in Kakamega, you talked about learners, candidates in private schools who are unfortunately not registered, but they have to sit for the exams. Perhaps you could update us on that, and maybe how is the government approaching?
I want to reiterate this very, very firmly. The examination materials are serialized and secured. But if our children who are in schools, and this particular school was a private school, first of all collected money to register the children, which as I said before, is a criminal offense, because the government of His Excellency Magaya Kenyatta ordered for the last 5 years that examination fees be paid for all children, both in private and public schools. So it is just a process. It doesn't require anything. But in certain parts, this place is in Nyanza, but I will not go further than that because I don't want to scare the children. All I have said that for those people who took money from the children, and we find that the children were not registered, we have decided as a government that the children must take the exam. Even though under protest, they must take the exam and they must not be penalized. There are quite a few of them. And any other child who presents himself or herself for an examination must be given examination. Of course, then it will then mean that a decision will have to be made from where we are, that an examination paper may be photocopied so that the child can be given an opportunity to do an exam. And like I said, the government is going to deal very firmly, without fear or favor, with those crooks who still think it is business as usual. So nobody should worry, and I think we are all accessible. We have a command and control center. Should there be any child anywhere who is being denied opportunity to take an exam, we need to know so that that can be rectified immediately. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Indeed, that is Education CS Professor George Magoha. And as we leave here, I hand you over to Elvis Kosgei, who is in Eldoret, particularly in an Ainapkoi area, to tell us exactly what is going on. Over to you, Elvis.
Thank you. We are coming to you from Ainapkoi constituency. This is Uasin Gishu County. Remember, here we have 6 sub-counties and 30 wards in Uasin Gishu. Currently, I'm with the CAS Sports, Simon Kachapin, and also the Deputy County Commissioner here in Uasin Gishu. Of course, this exercise started as early as 5:30 a.m. in the morning, and of course, we are keeping an eye just to see what is happening. Remember, in the North region, we'll also be crisscrossing, where we'll be headed to Nandi, Elgeyo Marakwet, Trans Nzoia, and here in Uasin Gishu County. Thank you very much, Bwana DCC.
Yes.
What are some of the tough and innovative measures that you've put in place to ensure that this process is seamless?
We have mobilized enough security personnel. As you can see, every center is going to be will have 2 security personnel. We have also made sure that we have sufficient transport. As you can see, we have mobilized school buses and also government vehicles to make sure that these exam papers get to the respective schools in good time. We are not anticipating any problem. We have made adequate security preparations, and apart from that, we also made sure that we've taken care of special cases, cases of probably students who are probably in hospitals, cases of students who are probably going to sit exams in other special institutions like the JK prison. All those ones have been covered. So we are very, very certain that this process will be very smooth. Yes.
I know in Uasin Gishu County we have 6 sub-counties. I know the remote areas. Have you also put innovative measures to ensure that also the process goes without any hitch?
Yes, like I said, we've made sure that there is adequate transport, and the containers have been opened at exactly 5:30 to make sure that the far-off schools are able to get their exams in good time. And additionally, we have an additional container in Burnt Forest to make sure that the far-flung schools far off from this center also catered for. So we are very certain about this. No problem. We aren't anticipating any problem. Yes.
There's issue of teen pregnancies. Have you also put into consideration?
Yes, like I said, our hospitals are on standby. If we will have any students who will probably be admitted because of pregnancy at MTRH and Plateau Mission Hospital, those ones are covered, and in case we do have such cases, then exams will be delivered to where those students will be. Yes.
Thank you very much. You also have the CAS Sports, Simon Kachapin. What should you expect today?
Thank you very much. Just as the DCC have said, we have been here since 5 in the morning, and I want to thank all the officers who are manning this exercise. They came up very early, and you can see the exercise is almost finishing, and I'm satisfied that the preparations here in Uasin Gishu is adequate, because up to now there is no cause of alarm. Everything is moving on well, and I think if we continue this way for the next 3 days, I think we shouldn't be worried of anything. Yes.
Apart from Uasin Gishu County, which areas as a government representative will you also be crisscrossing?
Yes, after here I will be going to Trans Nzoia, also to monitor the same exercise. And I think everything is going to move on smoothly because the government has deployed all the necessary resources, both material and human. And I think we are set as a government for this exercise, despite the fact that this time these exams are done in a very different times, these times of COVID. But I can see everybody is wearing masks, and we have encouraged people to do so, and we are going to check even the examination centers if everything is okay. But I think as preparations have been done and all the center managers have been told to do the necessary to see that we have that social distancing, and all the candidates have masks, and also the officers who are manning the exercise, because this is a time when we have COVID. We have never witnessed these ones before, but I know the government has done the necessary preparation to see to it that this exercise moves on well. Yes.
So, are you satisfied with the process so far here in Uasin Gishu County?
So far, I'm very satisfied because everything has gone smoothly, and as this time the exercise is finishing, and I know all the officers will be in the respective schools on time. Yes.
Thank you very much. That was Simon Kachapin, the CS Sports. Of course, also he had the Deputy County Commissioner here in Uasin Gishu County. The process here is seamless. We're expecting from here will also be added to different centers. I told you before, you have 6 sub-counties here in Uasin Gishu County, and of course we'll be crisscrossing also other areas just to see what is happening. There's issue of teen pregnancies, also visit the prison areas just to establish what is happening. Back to you in studio.
Thank you very much. Elvis Kosgei is coming to us live from Ainab Koi, and we are having our eyes trained on every corner of the country where the exams are taking place. 479 containers were opened at 6 a.m. The CS George Magoha was in Thika West, where he oversaw the opening of the container. A few glitches, such as some teachers being late to collect the materials, but of course that is nothing that affected the integrity of the materials that were distributed, and that is what was said. Shadrach Miti was there and witnessed it as well, giving us the very latest. Of course, he shall be moving on to Kiandutu and a school for the blind. We shall keep you updated on what happens as far as the examination is concerned. And across the country, we are having an all-hands-on-deck situation. Security officials, we are having the ministry, the teachers, even political leaders, as you have seen, on site, ensuring that everything goes as planned. Here with me in studio is Honorable Arthur Adera, as well as Joseph Kioko, who's a political analyst, who are helping us to take a look at some of the current affairs in the country, including that examination that we are expecting. Now, coming up after this break is the way it is. We will engage more on Magufuli, the former president of Tanzania, Magufuli's legacy, the challenges President Samia Suluhu will have to face, especially in restoring diplomatic ties with the late president may have severed, and the very thorny issue of the pandemic. How is she going to handle this one, given that the country is currently hemorrhaging a lot of people as well as public officials? We have seen that play out in the press. So let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll bring you the very latest from here in the country as far as the KCPE examinations are concerned, as well as what's transpiring across borders in Tanzania.
This is KTN News.